Phillies are 2008 World Champions of Baseball.
The Philadelphia Eagles are Super Bowl champions. Eagles fans everywhere, this is for you.
Now entering the game for Philly Press Box Radio, Bill Furman and Jim Chet Chesko.
It's Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. Hoping everyone had a very happy new year. Welcome to the Philly Press Box Radio Roundtable, brought to you by the Irish Rover Station House in Langhorne, PA, Cavs Philly Tailgates, and the STT Sports Network. I'm Bill Furman. I'll be your host tonight, along with my partner, Jim Chet Chesko. Chet, the Eagles have clinched the number 2 seed in the NFC East heading into Week 18. Not going to see much of them this week. Is Jalen Hurts still in concussion protocol an issue? We'll certainly talk about that. The Sixers won 6-7 before last night's game in Sacramento, which they lost again without Joel Embiid. The Flyers came out of the Christmas break winning 2 out of 3 out west. That's good. They're in Vegas a little later tonight. Penn State has advanced to the Final Four of the college football playoffs, taking care of Boise State. It looks like Notre Dame is taking care of Georgia, so that one is lining up. They'll be in the Orange Bowl next week in Miami. We have plenty to talk about in Philly sports.
Yeah, you know it, and we will talk also about the year that was just ended regarding the Philly sports scene and what's ahead now that we flipped the calendar to 2025. Happy New Year, everybody. As you said, Bill, you know, I stayed up late last night to watch the Sixers. They dominated the second half. They were up by like 8 points with 3 minutes left. Sacramento scored the last 15 points of the game. I was not happy. I went to bed angry, and that's never good.
That is never good. Hey, and you know what else just came out as we were getting ready for this show? The first round of All-Star balloting for the NBA just came out. Interesting how that fell as well.
I saw that. Hey, you know, something else I'm not happy about besides how the Sixers game ended? Some big doings regarding our football margin of victory pool. I am not happy, Bill.
Well, you shouldn't be because, you know,
it's coming down to the wire.
It is coming down to the wire. We'll get to that a little bit later on, but you're in a little unfamiliar spot after 2 years of that.
Yes, I am. We'll talk about it.
You bet. Hey, we have a couple great guests tonight with Frank Fitzpatrick making his annual visit with us, and the president-elect of the Philadelphia Sports Writers Association, Mike Shute, making his first visit to Philly Press Box Radio.
Yeah, that we do. Mike will tell us about the annual Philadelphia Sports Writers Association banquet that's coming up in just a couple of weeks. Several great honorees again this year. And yeah, as we do every year right around the start of the new year, our guy, Frankie Fitz, he's here. He's ready. Let's do this.
Let's do it. Let's welcome Frank Fitzpatrick back to Philly Press Box Radio. Frank, welcome, and thanks for taking time away from the grandkids.
Hello, guys. Happy New Year.
Hey, Frank. Welcome back. Let's get it started kind of the way we do every year when we have you on about this time. We will discuss various topics, but let me start this way. If I were to ask you, what were the biggest stories on the Philadelphia sports scene in 2024? What are the first 2 or 3 things that come to mind?
Whoa. Well, I think, you know, the Eagles, of course. I mean,
yeah.
They're, I think, you know, their success has been greater than we anticipated, I think, at the beginning of the year. Saquon Barkley certainly is. I mean, that's a story that's so delicious and so sweet. It's just fun to contemplate every time you think about him coming from the Giants and then thinking about where the Giants are now. And I could talk about that forever. But those two certainly. I think the Sixers, you know, the whole load management issue with Embiid and the fact that they're moving into a new arena, and then how the two are kind of linked, if when you think about it. So those two kind of pop into my head immediately. I've probably forgotten about a dozen, but
we'll cover it. Bill, what do you have for Frank?
Well, Frank, I want to ask you, what was your take on the Phillies? We'll bounce around a little bit. Disappointed in the way that whole thing ended. I think we thought we were going to go right back and play it again, and we did. We got out a round earlier.
Yeah, I was disappointed. I think it was kind of a case of deja vu. You know, I mean, season ended almost the same way it did the year before, with the offense inexplicably going into one of their swing and miss slumps that they are maddening. You know, the team can look like they're a juggernaut for 2 or 3 weeks, just hitting the heck out of the ball, and then it's like they all forget, you know, what the strike zone is for a week, and, you know, strike out 12, 13 times a game, and you know, don't support the good starting pitching that they had. So yeah, I was very disappointed, especially since you had another year where Nola and Wheeler got through the season pretty, you know, healthy and, you know, pitching well pretty much throughout. And I just expected a little more from them, and I certainly was disappointed. I think Bohm's sort of second half was a big issue. He looked like one of the best players in the league for the first half of the season. Yeah. And then he inexplicably slumped, and he was injured a little. He slumped in the second half, and it seemed to get into his head. And he doesn't seem to do well when things get into his head. So, yeah, I think anybody had to be disappointed in the way that season ended.
Hard to believe we may forget, we should say, that they had 8 All-Stars in July. A lot of talent on that team. You mentioned Zach Wheeler, and, you know, he was a big story. He finished second in the Cy Young voting. How good is Zach Wheeler, Frank, from what you've watched over the last few years?
You know, I just saw something. I forget what it was. It was a statistical ranking of the top 100 players in baseball. I think Wheeler, surprisingly, was the highest ranked Philly by quite a margin. I think he might have been number 12 or 13, and you had to go down to maybe 25 or 30 before you got to Bryce Harper.
Wow,
which kind of surprised me a little. But he's been phenomenal. I mean, he makes all his starts. He gets his 6-7 innings of solid baseball. He goes through streaks where he's virtually unhittable. His control is great. I mean, I don't know. He's got to be one of the best free agent signings certainly in Philly's history. And he's there's no reason to suspect that he won't give you at least a couple more seasons just like this. So there's a window there with him that I hate to see close. Yeah. So that's why, you know, I kind of wish the Phillies had been a little more active this offseason, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah, you led me right where I was going to go there. You know, we still have 6 or so weeks till spring training. You know, we get into March in 8 weeks. Are you surprised that they haven't been more active? It sounded like they were shopping maybe Bowman, Suarez, and a couple others, but from the rumors, if you will, the asking price was always too high.
Yeah, I am a little surprised, Bill. Not necessarily in terms of them going after the big free agents. I think it was unrealistic to think that they would make a run at Soto or even maybe Tucker. You know, they've got a $240 million payroll, and they're not New York or Los Angeles. So I don't think they were going to go too much higher than that. But, you know, I kind of would like to have seen them get a couple of contact guys, you know, just a couple of guys. I love that Louis, what's his name? Louis, the guy that's won a couple of batting titles, and he's won one in Minnesota, and then he came to Miami and won one, and then he went to San Diego. I know who you mean. Yeah. I can't think of his name. But anyway, I love to see a guy like that. Yeah. It's a little slap. I know it's not the way baseball's played today. Everybody's swing from the heels and swing for the fences. But I'd love to see a couple guys in the lineup that you just know are going to make contact. They're going to slap the ball around. I thought Turner was that kind of player at one point, but he, you know, he's another swing from the heels guy. Strikes out an awful lot for a shortstop. And a guy with his speed, for me, it's a shame. It's a waste that he doesn't take advantage of that speed a little more better by putting the ball in play a little more often. So I would have liked to have seen get a hitter or two to fill out that lineup to make it a little more versatile. Maybe get a right-handed hitter that you know, leverage some of that left-handed power that they have. And I think the bullpen, if they're going to lose Hoffman, they're going to have a hole there. So, you know, those are a couple of things I like to see him address. And there's still time. I mean, let's face it, you know, if we recognize these things, I'm certain Dombrowski and those guys do as well. So, you know, there's still time.
Yeah, they did sign the one bullpen guy and then a fifth starter, the guy from Miami.
Yeah, that's an interesting signing. I think that's
yeah.
I think there's some potential there for a nice surprise.
And probably more to come. Well, the year 2024 started off, of course, with the Eagles ending a very disappointing 2023 season in early January, a very quick playoff exit after losing 5 of 6 at the end of the regular season, then the one playoff game to Tampa Bay. And then a couple of months later, Jason Kelce made it official. Jason Kelce retiring from the game. Cam Jurgens steps in and is an immediate all-pro, so they didn't seem to lose much there. But what's Jason Kelce's legacy as a Philadelphia Eagle?
Has he gone? I don't know. It seems like I see him on TV every
a lot more than when he played, right?
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
given some opportunities, that's for sure.
It's astounding. But yeah, I think his legacy is Statler, and you see that today, 3 Eagles linemen were named Pro Bowlers, and you could have probably put Mailata on there as well, and had a fourth. So, I think that excellence that he sort of personified, and that he kind of instilled that quest for excellence in Jurgens, certainly. And, I think his work ethic and his demeanor and his attitude had already infected the rest of that line. And I think that's something that's continued. I don't know how much Statler has to do with that. I suspect he has quite a bit to do with it, but certainly Kelce was a factor as well. And, he's a guy I hated to see go. I mean, I certainly hated to see him go from the locker room. He was always a good quote.
There's those 6 Pro Bowls.
Personality, but yeah, he. I'm just happy to see that he hasn't disappeared completely. And what is it? Doesn't he have a late night television show coming up?
Yeah, coming up this month on Fox. I think once a week for the next couple of months. So
it's going to be in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah.
Huh. That'll be fascinating.
Oh yeah, I'll check it out.
Maybe you guys can get on or something. Yeah.
There you go.
Sure.
hey, Frank, what as we look at the Eagles, as Chet, summarized last year, and look where we are this year, Howie Roseman. What do we make of Howie Roseman? I mean, he's been to the top, he's been to the bottom, he's been out the door, he's been back to the top. He just keeps putting things together for this club.
It is. It's astounding when you look at that roster and look at his draft choices the last several years. I mean, they're 1 and 2 picks. I mean, they're all playing now, aren't they? The last 3 or 4 years. The 2 D-backs this year, and it's just he's as questionable as people thought he was. What, 4 or 5 years ago, they wanted to run him out of town.
Yep.
I don't think he's made a false move since, has he? His drafts
I didn't realize until just the other day that I saw a list where Ajumu, who's actually been contributing on that defensive line, is a 7th round draft pick, buried in a pile, and the guy's contributing.
Yes.
It's just amazing. He, knock on wood, he hasn't missed many here in the last handful of years.
Yeah, look at the linebacker they brought in from Rollins. I mean, now he's a Pro Bowler, right? And he just can't do anything wrong. He's in one of those streaks. I guess general managers go in those streaks, just like athletes do sometimes. And I don't know. He's certainly bought himself a kind of a lifetime contract there. I think. I don't think anybody's going to get rid of him anytime soon.
Well, speaking of general managers, the Flyers have a new one in Danny Briere. Keith Jones running things as well with him. I know you're not a huge hockey guy, but the fact that they got Matvei Mishkov to come over 2 years earlier than expected, certainly a huge boost to the orange and black.
Yeah, a guy that young and with that much talent, I mean, he's got a chance to have his number up in the rafters, I think. I mean, he seems to be that good. And what is he, 20 years old?
He just turned 20.
Turned 20, right?
Yeah, he's only going to get better.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was quite a coup. I think the choice of Briere and Jones, 2 really quality guys for that organization, have got to help them a lot. I think that was an excellent choice, because I have little questions about Tortorella. I think with Tortorella, I don't think you get any mediocrity. I think it's either you're going to be really good or you're going to be really bad. There's not much in the middle. I think that's just the way that his relationship with the team works. they're either going to really buy into him or they're going to really hate him. And I don't know where we are quite yet in this season. It's a little early, but I've seen sort of aspects of both. So
hey, one other thing on the Flyers. One other thing on the Flyers while we're talking about them, we're talking about a lot of positives, but the one big negative last year was their collapse late in the season. And Carter Hart and 4 other players from the 2018 Canadian World Junior team getting charged with sexual assault and probably ruining their NHL careers. So that was a shame last year.
That was a sordid mess. You hate to see that, anytime, especially but when it's a young guy with a lot of ability and a lot of hopes surrounding him, like Hart, it's particularly hard to deal with.
Yep.
Hey, Frank, thinking back over your many years of covering Philly sports and talking about Mitch Koff being just 19, now 20, who's the youngest guy you remember that being a superstar kind of guy? My first thought was Iverson, that he came at a pretty young age. But anybody else that came on the scene, we just said, I guess Lindros, but we just said, wow.
Yeah, I remember. Well, Darryl Dawkins he wasn't a an all-pro sensation right away, but he was just a kid going into the league, and he looked like he could handle himself right away. So he comes to mind. Yeah, Lindros certainly. I remember going up to do a story on Lindros when he was 16. I'd read a story about him in the Hockey News, and I went up, found him up in Oshawa, and it was like a man. He was like a man child even then. He was so much bigger and so much better than the guys he was playing against. So he was certainly a prodigy that I'll remember. Well, I mean, Dick Allen, that 64 season. How old was he then? Was he 22? Maybe he was. Yeah. That was a pretty impressive season. Can't think of too many off the top of my head. You guys have somebody particular in mind that
Oh, I was just thinking Iverson popped in.
Iverson, yeah.
Because
speaking of Dick Allen, you mentioned Dick Allen. There, he is in the mid-60s. He finally got into the Hall of Fame. Where did you stand on that? Does he deserve it, Frank?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm so, personally, stripping off my reporter's garments for a minute. He was my idol as a kid, and I'm just thrilled. I made my reservations for a hotel up there last year in anticipation of this, and I'm so thrilled that I'm going to be able to go and see him, or not see him, but see him get inducted. I'm going to take my grandson up. My son might go with us. We're just going to have a great time up there that weekend. But what a talent he was, and it's a shame. And it's his fault, I think, in a lot of ways that he squandered some of his ability and his potential. But for the thrills, for the time that he gave us here in Philadelphia, he was just unparalleled as someone to watch, someone to be mesmerized by. He just had such incredible natural ability. I just loved watching the guy. I've told stories about being a vendor at Connie Mack, and every time he would come up, I would sit down in the stands and drink one of the Cokes I was supposed to be selling, and didn't make much money, but I had a lot of fun watching Dick Allen play baseball. So I'm thrilled.
Absolutely. We are too. Hey, Frank, college football. You followed that. You wrote books. You were followed Penn State quite a bit. Here we are, 2024-25. We have a college football playoff underway as we speak. What do you make of it? Do you like how it's going, and do you like the idea at least?
I do like the idea, and I like the fact that there are more teams. The games themselves this year have been kind of duds, most of them. That game yesterday, that Arizona State game, was a heck of a game.
Yeah,
but yeah, I like the games. I like the concept. I like the way it's worked out. I think the final 4 teams are going to be. I think any one of those 4 teams could win this thing. I certainly don't have a favorite. Although if forced to pick at this stage, I might say Ohio State. Strangely enough, but
yeah, they look good.
And I like Penn State's chances. I mean, they run the ball well. They play good defense, and those are 2 things that are always going to hold you in good stead in a postseason. So I think it's worked out pretty well. There have been a lot of moaning and groaning about who should be in and who shouldn't, mostly from the SEC. And I don't know. The way the games have played out, I think the committee looks pretty smart at this point.
Frank, you mentioned Joel Embiid and the Sixers at the top of your comments. He had that 70-point game last spring, and then within a week he was injured yet again. Was kind of a shell of himself in the playoffs. And then there's the whole Olympic thing and the start of this season, the load management. What do you make of Joel Embiid and the Sixers organization's handling of him?
Oh, I don't know. I'm such an old timer, and it's just such a different era of basketball that I'm not sure I have a grasp of what the heck they're trying to do. But I mean, I know the idea is to get him into the playoffs healthy, and by limiting his time during the season, they feel like they can do that. But I don't know. I mean, is it really necessary? I mean, didn't Wilt play every minute of every game for 82 games?
He did.
Now, of course, the big difference is Wilt wasn't getting hundreds of millions, and the fate of a largely unpopular arena wasn't sort of resting on his shoulders the way it kind of is on Embiid's shoulders.
Speaking of that, what do you think of the arena and the plan to put?
I like it. I'm all for the arena being there. I like, that section of East Market Street just needs something. The gallery didn't work, and it worked for a while, but then it faded, and the things that they've had to replace it certainly haven't worked. So I like that in terms of an attempt to redevelop that portion of the city as an arena itself. As a location for an arena, of course, it's not as convenient as South Philadelphia, but I don't know. I'm kind of excited to see a game there, and I think it's a good location. I think its impact on Chinatown will be a lot less than I think is being cried about, but I'll go for it. I can't wait to see. it.
Hey, Frank, I'm going to put you on the spot here. January 2nd, 2025. All the present athletes that we have across all the teams, and we've got some good ones. Who's can't miss TV right now in Philadelphia sports?
Well, we talked about Wheeler. I always like watching his games. I love watching Harper's at bats. I mean, he's gung ho all the time. He's a lot of fun to watch. Tyrese Maxey. I mean, I really enjoy watching him. He's got a lot of energy, a lot of personality, and he's a heck of a player. I think matter of fact, just as an aside, I think if McCain had been healthy and they got Embiid to the end of the season healthy, I think they could contend, but that's a shame. I don't think they're going to have McCain now. But yeah, those guys certainly. Mishkov is somebody to watch. He's fun. And let's see, who did I forget? The Eagles. Oh, well, Barkley is a show in himself these days. That move he made where he jumped backwards over that defender, I've never seen anything like that. That was. No.
Hey, Frank,
we've been watching that for 30 years, I'm sure.
Well, since you mentioned that was one of my favorite things of this past year, and I don't know if you heard it, but here's Merrill Reese's call of that play.
Hurts in the gun. He backpedals. He's looking, still looking. He fires it out in the flat to Barkley, who beats one man, spins past another, leaps over a third, and comes down at the 30.
What was that? I've never seen that move, and I've been watching football all my life.
Well, he did that. He did that to show off to Shady McCoy.
He's never done this. No one's ever done this. He hurdles a guy backwards. How do you jump over a guy backwards?
He did.
Mike Quick nailed it. Nobody's ever done that.
I think we all had the same reaction to that, including his teammates.
Yeah, you see them on the sideline.
That was great. That was great.
They really were.
All right, Frank, last thing.
Maybe the highlight of the year.
Regarding the Eagles, how far are they going now? They got a tough road ahead. They may have to play all three teams from the NFC North if things break that way.
Yeah, what a division that's been this year.
Oh, man.
Wow. I think the Packers are certainly playing a lot better than they were in that first game, but so are the Eagles. So that would be an interesting matchup. I think they can beat Washington in the postseason. I think that one doesn't scare me as much. I think Tampa Bay worries me a little more because they're the one team that really handled the Eagles this year.
And they beat the Lions.
Yeah, they might.
They did, yeah.
They're playing really well. And the Lions are really banged up. I mean, their defense has just been decimated.
They keep winning, though. They just keep winning.
I know. They score so much. Their offense is so good. And the Vikings, I don't know how they're doing it. I mean, Justin Jefferson and Sam Darnold, is he the same guy who was playing for the Jets?
It doesn't look like him.
No, he doesn't. Boy, he really doesn't.
Well, Frank, I think we are out of time already.
We did it again, Frank.
That went too fast.
Yeah, that was fun. Well, I'm available next year at the same time. So
there you go.
We're going to keep dusting you off, Frank, every year.
Yeah, thanks.
Hey, we need to get back. We'll skip it this year, but we'll get to the Puddinhead Jones again next year. How's that?
All right, good.
Because it's always a great story.
That was fun. Yeah, you're right.
Yes, sir.
All right,
Thank you,
Frank. Thanks for joining us. Continue with a great 2025.
All right, thanks. You guys too. Have a good New Year.
All right, you too.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Chet. Frank is always great. Always great to have him and always on top of his game. That's for sure. Hey, did you know, Chet, Philly Press Box is now part of a new podcast network, the STT Sports Network, as in Set the Trends. It's a network set up by our pal, Phil Stiefel, host of the terrific Trending in the AM show that you can now find every weekday morning on the STT Sports Network YouTube channel. Check out Phil and be sure to subscribe to the channel. Phil's show is on there, and so is ours. Yeah, you can find Philly Press Box Radio there, in addition to our own YouTube channel and on our Facebook page. That hasn't changed any. Again, it's the STT Sports Network, setting the trends for what sports talk should be. You were just a guest with Phil before he went on his little Christmas break, weren't you?
Yes, I was. And plugging the Ray Didinger show that we did last week, which was great. We got a lot of great reaction to that. I think Phil is still on vacation, doing a cruise to start the new year, which is great. Good for him. But you know what? He could have fun at the Irish Rover, too, if he comes back.
Yeah, well, what's going on over there at the Irish Rover?
Funny you ask. I'm going to tell you about it. The Irish Rover. It's a new year, but it's the continuation of the many great aspects of the Irish Rover Station House that you're accustomed to continuing. Trivia night every Wednesday. Live music Saturday nights. Killer Burger Thursdays, plus dinner specials every Thursday through Sunday. And, oh, yeah, always 24 beers on tap. Great bartenders at the Irish Rover, too. Such a terrific place. It's a bar. It's a restaurant. There's a large banquet room for all your events. The Irish Rover Station House is on Bellevue Avenue in Langhorne. Check the website, which would be irishroverstationhouse.com. And I mentioned Ray Didinger, and by golly, here he is.
Hi, this is Ray Didinger, and it is always fun to talk sports with these two guys, Bill and Chet, on Philly Press Box Radio.
Hey, Chet, before we move on, we're going to talk Penn State and the college football playoffs a little more. We didn't touch base with Frank on the Saquon decision.
Yes.
Yeah, so what you got on that? Good move, bad move? I think you know where I stand on this.
I think it is actually the right move because you want to get to the Super Bowl. You want to get guys rested and healthy. Now, that being said, I would have loved to see him play and go for the record. I think we all would have loved to see that. But you got to think about the big picture. I think that's where the decision came from. I don't know if it was Sirianni making the decision totally or if Howie and Jeff got involved, but it's probably the best decision for the long term. These guys have been playing for 12 straight weeks since the bye, which was in week 5. So, they played 11 or 12 games in a row without a break, and they're not going to get a break in the postseason. Hopefully they're going to play, 3 straight weeks in the postseason. So that's a lot of football. But yeah, selfishly, we would love to have seen him go for that 101 yards on Sunday.
Okay, so I'm going to add this. If he had 15 carries on Sunday, short of getting hurt, which you could get hurt at any time.
You can.
Do you think 15 carries on Sunday is enough rest that it really makes a difference? I think not.
Yeah, I know. I know. But, and yes, he could get hurt, walking down the street or on the first carry in the postseason. But if he's not playing Sunday, he's got no chance of getting hurt Sunday between 1 and 4 o'clock, certainly. And the other thing you got to consider is if he plays, the whole offensive line plays. And
well,
they're
maybe
kind of
not.
Beaten
maybe
down.
Not. You play Fred Johnson and you don't play Lane Johnson. He started. You play Tyler Steen. Those guys have been plugged in Calcaterra plays.
And and probably the starting wide receivers, I think, are going to play too, because if not, the Giants know it's going to be just Saquon. And as bad as the Giants are, if they know what's coming, I think they're going to have a better chance of stopping him. So, yeah, I see where you're coming from. The other concern, though, is Jalen Hurts. As you said at the top, he's still on concussion protocol, and it's been, 11 days now since the game?
Yeah, that's definitely an issue, I think, at this point, as we get all the way out here till Thursday. Didn't practice again today.
Yeah.
And I guess he's still listed as concussion. So, I mean, that's a bigger issue than Saquon Barkley not playing at this point. And also on the DNP today was Brown, Smith, Johnson, Juergens, Landon. That none of the practice.
Yeah, most of the guys just getting rest, though. It's just a rest thing.
Right. But you don't practice on Thursday, you're not playling.
Yeah. So you know what? I think they can still beat the Giants with 80% backups. So we'll talk about
we're gonna find out. I mean, the one thing about these games, the guys on the other team, the Giants in this case, they're playing for jobs. Whether they're making tape, whether it's for the Giants or for their next team, they're making tape. They're not going out there to dog out and lay down. So they're going to play, and you better come to play.
I have a lot of friends who are Giants fans. They're more likable than my friends who are Cowboys fans. But these friends who are Giants fans, most of them want the Giants to lose on Sunday so they can get, a top 5 draft pick, because they're right in that bunch of teams that have, 3 or 4 wins on the season. So a Giants loss would help them get the higher draft pick.
Yeah, well, they played themselves out of that number 1 pick. It looks like.
What the hell was that? Beating up on the Colts last week? That was just crazy. That came out of nowhere.
Well, the Colts beat themselves up.
Yeah.
All right, let's get over to college football. As we talked about, we're down to 4. Notre Dame looks like they've got that wrapped up. Only a couple minutes left in that game.
What is the score now as we speak?
It's 23-10, a minute
Still
43 to go. Penn State, Notre Dame in Miami for the Orange Bowl. Texas against the red-hot Ohio State team. It's going to be fun getting to the Final Four. Now we're down to the marbles.
Yeah, and this is what everybody wanted, playoff system where you get the 4 best teams standing at the end. And, maybe we'll have that. It looks that way. Penn State and Notre Dame would be in Miami 1 week from today, Bill, next Thursday. So I'm going to clear my schedule. Yeah, it's Thursday, January 9th.
You sure?
Check your schedule.
I am. I'm going to check it right now because I was looking at buying tickets that, possibly, but I was going to tell you about that. But
yeah. Because on your agenda, I saw that you had written 10 days from now, and I checked 2 places, and I think they announced during the game. They said Thursday, January 9th. So,
we'll tell you in just a minute. Thursday, January 9th.
There you go.
You are right. Capital One Orange Bowl. Well, that changes my travel plans.
So, yeah, the Nittany Lions took care of business. They, beat Boise State, as you said, fairly easily. Ohio State looks really, really good, though. And I think
that game, by the way, is on the 10th now, since you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Ohio State, Texas is on the 10th.
Exactly. So the 9th and 10th, 2 separate days, prime time for both of them, certainly.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can tell you, I had an opportunity to get tickets. I opted out today. There's still another chance, but Thursday makes it a little bit of a problem. But $220 a ticket, $330 for the club seats, Chet. We're up in your range. You know what I mean?
Well, you're loaded. You can afford it. Go for it.
$330 for a ticket. I'm not quite so sure about that. But, hey, I like this matchup. I like the Penn State-Notre Dame matchup. I think Penn State matches up well with Notre Dame. Notre Dame plays solid defense. Penn State plays good offense. Penn State defense is a little better, I think, than this Notre Dame offense at this point.
And a lot of people around the country and some of my friends, even our pal Denny, would love to see this matchup, Penn State, Notre Dame, because it's, 2 teams that have a pretty wide following everywhere, Notre Dame especially, and these teams haven't played each other in quite a while. So I think it would be a ratings bonanza and a pretty good game too.
Yeah.
I heard Mike Missinelli today said the preliminary lines came out. If Penn State played either Notre Dame or Georgia, Penn State would be about a 1.5 point underdog in each case.
And I wonder what they actually base that on. I mean,
knows?
You look at these two playoff games, everybody said, well, Penn State had the easy route. Well, I don't necessarily buy that.
Yeah,
but
they did.
if they did, they took care of their business.
They did.
I mean, they didn't. It's not like they played down to their opponents. So if they got a good draw, they took care of their business, and that's all you can do.
Yeah. So we're looking forward to Penn State, Notre Dame next Thursday.
Looking forward to that. We'll talk more about that next Wednesday night because we'll be back on schedule.
Yes.
Hey, you are a member of the Philadelphia Sports Writers Association, and their annual banquet is coming up very soon, as you mentioned. Always a great event. And you had a chance to visit with the president-elect of the PSWA, Mike Shute, to discuss.
Yeah, we actually just spoke a few hours ago, earlier this afternoon, and we covered a lot of ground. So without any further ado, let's get right to it. It's always nice when we have a first-time visitor joining us on Philly Press Box Radio, and that is the case right now. Let's say hello to Mike Shute. Hey, Mike.
Hey, how are you?
I'm all right. So, Mike, you're the president-elect of the Philadelphia Sports Writers Association. When do you officially ascend to the presidency?
Well, I'm not 100% sure when, but I think it's June 1st, May, at the end of May, beginning of June. So yeah, that'll be my opportunity to step into that role that's been held by currently Mike Luongo is the president. So I'll be able to hopefully fill his shoes admirably, minimally.
Well, hey, I know the PSWA has been around for a long, long time. It's pretty amazing how long, in fact. What can you tell the folks about the incredible history of the PSWA?
Well, it started in 1904, as you might imagine. It was a room full of sports writers. The cigar smoke was flying. They were trying to come up with some way to kind of organize themselves and do some things together. And that was kind of the way things were born. And since then, they've had a banquet pretty much annually, minus winter of 2021 due to COVID. So this year will be our 120th banquet overall. So they've been running this thing for a long, long time. And it's, Chet, it's the oldest organization of its kind in the country. St. Louis is another one that has had a pretty lengthy history in that type of regard, but no organization like this exists anywhere else in the country except for Philadelphia. And I think that's a credit to not just the passion of sports fans here in the town, but also the sports media that does the job that covers Philadelphia sports. And it's not just writers. We have members who are web reporters. We have members who are TV reporters and broadcasters, radio reporters and broadcasters, ranging from, KYW News Radio to the Philly Press Box Radio, as you are, of course, are a member as well.
Absolutely. Hey, I don't know if you know any of these names, but if you do, it'll be great. This will blow people's minds. Who are some of the honorees like 90, 100, 110 years ago?
Well, I do have our program from last year in front of me, so I can fire off some names from that list if you want to hear some pretty wild stuff.
I remember looking at that list one time, and you just imagine it's 1928 or 1935, and some of the names that we had at the PSWA back then.
Well, if everyone remembers a name from baseball, 1939, Jerome Dizzy Dean was the organization's most courageous athlete that year. Tommy John, 1978, is another name, a most courageous. Again, he, of course, had the famous Tommy John surgery. Yeah. So that was, I guess, where he came into play there. And that's just most courageous. Of course, we have the athlete of the year. Guys like Wilt Chamberlain have been the athlete of the year. 1975, Pete Rose was the athlete of the year. And of course, he was with the Cincinnati Reds at that time. But did come to Philadelphia for the dinner to be honored as the Philadelphia Sports Writers Athlete of the Year. A lot of times we will kind of focus on the athlete of the year, pro athlete of the year, as being someone from a Philadelphia team or maybe the Philadelphia area. For example, Mike Trout has been the Philadelphia Sports Writers Athlete of the Year twice in 2012 and 2014. He, of course, from Millville, New Jersey. Joe DiMaggio, 1941, the Athlete of the Year. Chet. So, I mean, we've got a rich history. Muhammad Ali as well. There's a famous picture that's out there. Mike Schmidt and Muhammad Ali sitting at dinner, both wearing their tuxedos, chatting it up while they're enjoying their salad. So it's kind of cool to see the amazing history and the names that you can just kind of rip through. And we do have a complete list of our past award winners on our website at phillysportswriters.com. So you can check that out as well if you're interested in the history. If anyone is, feel free.
All right, now we're going to talk about this year's banquet to be held Thursday, January 16th in a few minutes, but we're going to make people wait for that. Ahead of that, let's talk about the Philly sports scene. First of all, what is your confidence level in the Eagles 9 or 10 days ahead of their first playoff game, whether it be against the Commanders or Packers?
Well, I've seen them play against both teams. Obviously, the Packers was on TV, but I, have been able to see both games. And I personally, I mean, the way the Packers have been playing, you kind of, I think, might want to save them for a little bit later because their offense has been pretty good. But and I think, when the Eagles played the Commanders in that loss, that 36-33 loss recently, that was a little bit, I don't want to say misleading, but, you had Jalen Hurts get injured with a concussion, which he's still trying to recover from and is still kind of, I guess, listed as questionable. Not that he's going to play this week anyway. Neither he nor any of the other starters will really be seeing any time or much time, depending on who it is. But if you're asking me, you want to play the easiest possible team, I feel that the Redskins is the easier matchup for the Eagles, just given, a rookie quarterback in the playoffs, what the Packers were able to do last year with their young team. They kind of marched a bit through the playoffs as well. So, Redskins for sure. But the Eagles will get a chance to kind of rest everybody this week. That'll be huge. Packers and Commanders. I still call them the Redskins. I can't stop. It's ingrained in my head. But
you're not alone.
Packers and Commanders are still kind of playing for seeding, so they do have a little something to play for this week in their games as well.
Yeah, and they may have to go through that whole NFC North to get to the Super Bowl because the way the things may play out in the postseason, right. They may play the Packers and then the fifth seed, which will be either Detroit or Minnesota, and right. Then the number one seed, which will be either Minnesota or Detroit. So could be a tough road, but we'll see. All right, so we have the annual Philly Sports Writers Association dinner banquet coming up on the 16th. It's in Cherry Hill. And among the honorees, the most courageous award recipient, Charlie Manuel. Why Charlie?
Well, Charlie Manuel, of course, everyone knows as the manager of the 2008 Phillies World Series champions. But Charlie Manuel, as people are probably aware as well, suffered a stroke a couple of years back. And Charlie Manuel has, worked his way back in various ways, physical therapy, some speech therapy, different things. And he is back working with the Phillies again. So he has returned to his job as, a special assistant with the team. And he was at spring training last year. He's going to be there this year. And before he heads down, or before I guess he heads over, he does live in Florida most of the time. But he's going to come up and pay us a visit for the Philadelphia Sports Writers Banquet on January 16th. We're honoring him for overcoming, that health issue and returning back to baseball. And it's amazing. Charlie's been in the game for a long, long time as a player, in the minors, in the majors, as a coach and as a manager. Now, of course, in the role he has now with the Phillies. And everyone loves Charlie Manuel. Everyone is glad that he's recovered and, on a healthy path. And, we're there to celebrate him, not just for, what he has done in the past couple of years, but, his body of work here in Philadelphia. He's a fan favorite. And, we're glad that we can honor him and glad he's able to join us for this special evening.
Among the other honorees, Michael Barkan, Bill Giles, love Bill Giles. And I think it's very cool that the PSWA is honoring the USFL 1984 champion Philadelphia Stars, who really did have a bunch of great players, several of whom, went on to the NFL and made a mark there. I was actually a college classmate at Penn State with quarterback Chuck Fusina, caught up with him. I think this was in 2016. Do you know what players might be there representing both the Philadelphia and Baltimore Stars?
Chuck is scheduled to come. He's supposed to be there. Ideally, as far as I know, he's going to be on the dais sitting with former GM of the team, Carl Peterson. The two of them will be up there. And there are going to be other players as well. unfortunately, Jim Mora, the head coach, was hoping to make it, but he had a schedule snafu, so he's not going to be able to be there. But we will have other players from the team. I understand Kelvin Bryant is supposed to be coming, the great running back for that team, number 44. You have John Bunting, the former Eagles linebacker, who before joining the Stars of the USFL was a linebacker on that Eagles team that played in the Super Bowl in 1980 against the Raiders. He will be joined by Ken Dunnick, also a former Eagle on that same Super Bowl team who played tight end for both those teams, the Eagles and the Stars. But those three guys will definitely be there, along with Fusina and Peterson. So they're going to have a pretty good representation of former players who are going to be joining us in a couple of weeks on January 16th at the DoubleTree by Hilton there on Route 70 in Cherry Hill. We've had the dinner there for many years.
Mike, we got 1 minute left. I've been to about a dozen PSW banquets since 2010. I remember meeting the legendary Bill Campbell there in 2011. I got to interview Phil skipper Rob Thompson last year. How can people interested in attending the January 16th banquet in Cherry Hill get tickets?
Well, there's a great spot on our website. You can do everything right online. There you see it right there. phillysportswriters.com/buy-banquet-tickets, or just go to our main homepage, phillysportswriters.com, and then you'll see a couple of links for ticket information and right at the top, as well as on that homepage, there's a little ticket logo a little bit further down as you scroll on the main homepage, and that'll take you to the link as well. You can put all the information in. Tickets are $99 per person. If you have a big group, you want to put together a group and head out, you can get a table of 12, and there's a discount on that where you're only paying for 11 tickets. The 12th is free. So there's some good opportunities to come on out, enjoy a great meal, enjoy a great night, listen to some people speak about their careers. Again, you mentioned Michael Barkan. He's our Bill Campbell Award winner as the Broadcaster of the Year. We have Matt Breen from the Philadelphia Inquirer. He is our Stan Hockman Award winner. Those two awards are relatively new for us over the years, as we've begun to honor some of our own as well. But it's a great night. You mentioned Charlie. You mentioned Bill Giles. One winner of one of our annual awards in particular that people might find interesting, Caitlin Clark is our Amateur Athlete of the Year. She unfortunately cannot be there. She has a commitment with a new basketball league that's starting up, and they play that weekend, so she's not able to do this, but we are supposed to be receiving a video from her, and there's some other big winners as well that we'll be happy to celebrate. One in particular that Philly folks might really enjoy and be really pleased about, Chet, is Dick Allen getting to the National Baseball Hall of Fame this year.
Yeah,
he will have some family representation there. They're going to speak and talk about him and what it means to him, to them and their family, about him getting into the Hall of Fame this year. That was kind of a pretty big, joyous occasion. I saw some great videos of the family celebrating. So certainly it'll be awesome to hear what they have to say and celebrate his success.
Absolutely. Mike, this was great, as I expected. See you at the banquet at the DoubleTree by Hilton in Cherry Hill on the 16th. Thanks for visiting Philly Press Box Radio.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Hope to see you there and hope to see a lot of your viewers there as well. It's going to be a really great night. And again, 120 years we've been doing this, so we must be doing something right, I guess. I don't know.
Good stuff. We'll be looking for a full report coming out of that banquet too, pal.
Yeah, looking forward to it. That's on the 16th. Maybe I can get Ken Dunnick and or John Bunting to come on in the next week or two to talk about it. So
there you go.
I'll work on that.
Let's do it. All right.
One thing before we continue, I got these Pringles potato chips recently. It's a limited edition. I like Philly cheesesteaks. I like Philly cheesesteaks. I like chips, but Philly cheesesteak chips, no. I cannot recommend.
No.
Can't recommend it. Sorry, guys.
No, I'm with you. I'm with you without even tasting them. Gotta go. Hey, I'm only gonna throw one thing out here about the Sixers real quick. We're gonna move on. We talked about it with Frank, but the All-Star balloting came out. First round of voting. Joel Embiid is 8th. Paul George is 9th. Tyrese Maxey is 7th among the guards. What do you make of any of that?
I think Maxey will move up as the voting continues. Embiid will also, if he stays healthy and plays more games. But yeah, I'm not shocked. I mean, even with Maxey, even though he's played pretty well, there's not a lot of focus on the 76ers right now around the league because of how badly they started the season. So
because they stink. Go ahead.
They played better. And like I said, last night's game just killed me because I thought they had a big win against a favored Sacramento Kings team, and then they collapsed at the end. They have a game tonight, which is why Embiid sat out last night. Embiid playing tonight. Not sure if Paul George is going to play back-to-back. So who knows? Load management, get those guys healthy for the playoffs. As Frank said.
Playoffs.
What happens? Playoffs. They're moving on up, Bill. They are moving on up.
Not if you keep losing. All right. Hey, tell us what's going on with the best tailgaters in Philadelphia. Bob Cavanaugh and the gang at Cavs Philly Tailgates.
Cavs Philly Tailgates has been cooking up a terrific catering business for nearly 35 years now. Known best for their tailgate parties, Cavs is a 3-time winner of Philly Tailgates Jack Daniels Great American Tailgate Party Contest and a past winner of the Philly Daily News Tailgate Award. Cavs also does corporate events and parties, you name it. Of course, Cav hosts tailgates before all of the Birds games at the Link, and that includes the regular season finale this coming Sunday against those Giants. That's the old schedule right there. I had a new one and I lost it. So they will be tailgating before the Giants game and before the wild card game the following Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. We don't know when that game is going to be scheduled just yet. But Cavs Philly Tailgates, Cavs Catering at Verizon.net if you want to contact them that way. Cavs Philly Tailgates is the way to go.
All right. Speaking of the way to go, let's go make some picks. How about that? We all had a pretty good week last week. We're down to the last week of the regular season. We're neck and neck. Hey, feel free to put the statistics up.
There we go. Yeah, you went 4-1 last week. Boop and I were both 3-2. You picked the Vikings. We picked the Green Bay Packers. Didn't work out for us. That means you now have a 2-game lead over Boop. And I'm eliminated from this one. So,
two games up with 5 to go. I hope I don't mess that up.
Yeah. Well, I have your picks emailed to me. Boop emailed his picks to me. You guys don't know who picked, but I have.
Do we have trust issues? All of a sudden, I get a note saying you got to mail your picks in.
Well, you always like to do your picks last. So if I give,
that's just because I'm the host. I'm just trying to keep the flow going.
I just want to have confirmation that your picks were in on time.
Okay.
So I got them. All right, let's get started. Who
Hey, got? Bob knows. Look what Bob says. All right, let's get to it. We added 3 games this week because they're playoff type games, and the NFC East is playing each other. So we have Cincinnati at Pittsburgh Saturday night. Bengals are -1.5. Let's go.
All right, Boop says Cincinnati is holding on by barely a thread. Oh, he's picking the Steelers this week. Steelers have not looked great lately. I am picking Cincinnati. Who you got, Bill?
I'm taking Joey Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. They got to play. They got to win to stay alive. Pittsburgh's in no matter what.
Yeah, I'm surprised Boop took the Steelers. So that could be a big one for you and not a good one for Boop. We'll see. Next.
Carolina at Atlanta, the Falcons -7.5. They're trying to stay in the playoff hunt.
Yeah, they need Tampa Bay to lose. Atlanta does need some help to get in, says Boop. The Falcons will do their part easily. His pick, the Falcons. Yeah, I got to pick Atlanta as well in that one.
Me too.
Next.
Minnesota at Detroit for all the NFC marbles. Sunday Night Football. What a coup for the NFL for this to be the last game of the year.
Man, that worked out great. Yeah, the schedule makers did a fine job, and the two teams have certainly held up well. I kept doubting whether Minnesota was legit. I wondered about Detroit's, health, whether that would impede their progress. Nope, they just keep winning. Boop says one of these teams is going to join the 1999 Titans as the only second-place team with just 3 losses in a 16-plus game schedule era. Well, Boop is picking the Detroit Lions, Bill. I was going to go Minnesota, but no, I have written down Detroit myself. Not that my pick even matters, but we both have Detroit. Let's see. What do you have, Bill?
Detroit at home. Really, and the only reason I took them is because they're at home.
I see it.
Yeah.
You may have already clinched, Bill. We'll see how these last 2 games go.
Well, we've got Washington visits Dallas in the NFC East. I think we got a pretty good idea where that one's going. Commanders are -4.5.
Boop says this might get as ugly for Dallas as last Sunday. His pick is the Commanders. My pick is the Washington Commanders. Your pick, Bill?
Well, I was going to go with Dallas until they cut Zeke Elliott.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going Commanders minus 4.5. Eagles host the Giants at the Link. Eagles minus 2.5.
All right. Boop says New York won't have anything left in the tank after putting 45 up on the Colts. His pick is the Eagles. My pick is the Eagles, even if it's Tanner McKee at quarterback the whole game.
Yeah, I'm going to take. I took the Eagles too, just because I almost always do. But I wouldn't be surprised the Eagles don't win it if they lose this game.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. But I think even with the backups that the Eagles are going to win this one, because I think, especially if it's Tanner McKee, he wants to show that he's the real deal.
Well, you got to have enough players out there to play, though. I mean,
before they've even played any games this weekend, Bill, you have just clinched the title in our Pick'em League. Congratulations.
Oh, did I?
You did.
Well, we have enough of this. We have enough of the same picks.
You only have one different from Boop.
Oh, well, thanks. Congratulations to me.
Now you're asking about the margin of victory pool.
Margin of victory. Let's go. I told you I had the Bills in my pocket last week. They were up 40-0.
Pool. Yeah. You don't get eliminated if your surefire pick loses. You do get points if that one surefire pick wins, the points equating to the margin of victory. And yes, last week, here's what happened. I picked Indianapolis and the Giants did me wrong. So I got a loss and 0 points. Yeah, you had Buffalo beating the Jets. They were up 40-0.
Yeah.
Thank God the Jets came back and made it, well, not close, but 40 to
14. Yeah,
you got 26 points. Bill, you are in first place. 231 points to 228. Boop not totally eliminated either. He's got 201. We are going down to the final week in this one. Can Boop make up 30 points? Can I make up 3 points? I like my chances, Bill.
Well, go ahead and give us some picks.
Let's see what Boop has. I didn't even look because I don't look at his picks in advance. Boop says he has or is that you? Oh, that's you. Boop has the Atlanta Falcons over the Panthers. So Boop is taking Atlanta. I considered Atlanta. I considered Denver because Denver is playing Kansas City, who's going to be playing a bunch of backups. But in the end, right there, I picked, you can't see it, but trust me, Tampa. I picked Tampa over New Orleans because Tampa needs a win and New Orleans stinks.
Yeah. Well, I came down to 2. I was going to pick Atlanta also.
Oh.
But I also have the Baltimore Ravens.
Yes.
Who need a win also to clinch. They're in either way, but to clinch, they need a win. And they are playing Cleveland. They're playing Cleveland. They're actually 17.5-point favorites. I texted my buddy, Chip. I said, Chip, is this real? Is this an 18-point game? He said, well, they ain't going to beat them by 18, but that's the line, 17.5. So I went with Baltimore. I did like Atlanta. I went with basically Lamar Jackson over Michael Penix from the turnover standpoint.
Well, I looked at who we had picked over the previous 17 weeks, and I knew you could not pick Tampa because you picked them previously. So I knew that I had to pick somebody different from you to have a shot. And that's why I went with the Bucs, plus the fact that they need a win. So I got to hope Tampa wins by more than Baltimore wins by a difference of 4 more on my end. So Let's go Bucs. Come on, Baker.
Hey, and speaking of that, Baker Mayfield got snubbed by the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, he had a great year.
He's liable to come out and throw for 5 miles because he's that kind of guy. And one other thing, because I follow Tampa Bay a little bit. Mike Evans needs like 80 yards to get 1,000, which would be 1,000 for every single year of his career. Like 13th time, 12th time. No one's ever done it.
Pretty good.
And Baker said when they asked him if Mike will get the record, he says, if we win, Mike will get the record.
Yeah.
Because if they hold him under 100, they ain't winning. So that's Baker's position. I think Baker's going to come out throwing. He's a good quarterback.
Yeah. I like his chances. I like their chances.
Yep. All right. Hey, great guests tonight of Frank Fitzpatrick and Mike Shute. One more holiday schedule change next week. We're going to be back to normal. Who's coming to Philly Press Box Radio to talk to us?
Yes, back in our regular Wednesday time slot for the foreseeable future. In fact, we have a real good guest making a return visit. Actually, it's not 100%, but he's pretty sure he can make it happen. He covers the Eagles for no, it's not The Athletic anymore. That is an old graphic. He is now with PHLY. So Zach Berman from PHLY to talk with him about the Eagles' postseason readiness, the health of Jalen Hurts, and much, much more. We may or may not have a second guest. We shall see, but hopefully we will have Zach Berman next week.
All right. Sounds good. Anything else before we wrap it up? I have one thing to add.
Yes.
R.I.P. Bill Berge. Today was Bill's funeral cemetery ceremony, and many former Eagles were at that event today.
Yeah, I saw Ken Dunnick posted that he was there. So rest easy, Mr. Berge, number 66.
That's right. All right. Let's thank tonight's special guests, Frank Fitzpatrick and Mike Shute. Our sponsors, the Irish Rover Station House, Cavs Philly Tailgates, PPCC 118 Raz Room. For Jim Chechesko, this is Bill Furman. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll join Philly Press Box Radio back at our regular time next Wednesday, January 8th at 7 p.m. You can see us live on Facebook, on our Philly Press Box Radio YouTube channel, and on the STT Sports Network YouTube channel, as well as listen on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and all the others. Happy New Year once again. High hopes, Philadelphia sports fans. Go Birds. Go Penn State.
Happy trails till we meet again.